Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond Balance Sheet. I am Aliza Naqvi, and the guest we have today, well, it is safe to say that he has been a high achiever all his life, particularly in his qualifications. Yes, not one, but two qualifications, which is indeed an honor. He is a CA and an ACCA. Very important to mention that he's a merit holder in CA and a position holder for FR exam in ACCA. He is currently working as a senior financial analyst in the group financial reporting team for Emirates, which we will delve into straight in when I introduce him. Let's welcome Mr. Mohammed Huzaifa.
Not 𝗕𝗵𝗲𝗲𝘁, Huzaifa Usman. You got the name wrong.
It's Huzaifa?
It's just Huzaifa.
Oh, sorry. I got the intro as Mohammed Huzaifa. Well, we can just put it straight. Hi, Huzaifa. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you for the not so humbling introduction. Anyway, but yeah, so it's nice to be here. I think I came back after a year to TSA, right after I came back from Dubai for my vacations. So yeah, it's good to be here. Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you here. Let's get straight into the first question I want to ask is that just one qualification is so draining for certain individuals. You opted for two. So can we straight get into what was your purpose behind it and what aim did you have?
Okay, so the reason why I opted for ACCA, I mean, before that, I know a lot of people who went for dual qualification. So it's not that I did something out of this world. There are people who go for dual qualifications. But the reason why I went for it was I did not have a BCom. And
Okay.
it's always better to get a degree for your work permit reasons when you're applying outside of Pakistan. So since I didn't have a BCom, the only other way to get a degree was through ACCA's pathway program with Oxford Brookes University. I'm sure people know about it.
Yes.
So after I was done with my CA, I had to get done with my degree. So that's why I started my ACCA. And I was halfway through it, so I just thought that might as well complete it and not leave it hanging because and anyway pay subscription every year to them. So yeah, so the degree, getting the degree was the reason why I opted for ACCA as well.
So did the degree give you an edge?
I mean, it's always better to have a degree because, especially firms in the Middle East and industries in the Middle East, what they require is they require a graduate for their work permits, for the ikamas, the residencies. And after all, CA or ACC is just a professional qualification and a certification. It's not a degree. So that's why you'd see people who have a couple of papers left in their CA program, but because they have a BCom from KU, they do end up getting into those places because it's easier to manage a work permit or manage an ikama if you're a graduate of a university. So yeah, that's the only. I mean, there's no I would say specific value addition in terms of technical expertise. It's just to be safe in case a degree is required or if I afterwards. So yeah, no particular technical value addition, honestly.
Okay, and is this only limited to UAE or do you find like this requirement is for all over the world?
I think as so far what I've seen is that not just UAE but there are like firms in Saudi as well, Qatar as well. They do ask for a degree apart from a qualification as well. But I've seen people who got into firms in Europe or in the UK and they didn't have a degree, but they managed to move over there. So I'm going to assume that it's not a significant requirement in the Western part of the world, but in the Middle East, yeah, you see people do tend to get a degree to make sure that after getting into the firms, they do not have to hold back because they didn't have a graduate degree from a
Yeah.
university.
Let's go over your journey.
Okay, so I started my CA in 2018, in the later half of 2018, after I was done with my A levels, and I joined TSA for my AFC and CAF, and throughout the next 1.5 years, I was with the institute. And after I was done with my CAF, I joined A. Ferguson PwC in December of 2019, and after that. I qualified my CA in 22 in the June attempt of 2022 and became a member the next year after I completed my article. So all in all, you can say that I was with as a student as a trainee. I was with the institute like with ICAP for almost 5 years. So that's what my quick journey of how I spent those 5 years was.
I'm sure it wasn't as quick and easy as you described it.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there are always challenges in things that you do, but thankfully, I mean, I can say that I've been blessed that it went really well. The studying part, as before the articles, the studying part within the articles, and particularly the firm. I mean, for Ferguson was an amazing journey for me. Those 3.5 years with the firm, the kind of friends that I made, my you can say the associates that I got to coach and mentor, and the clients that got to work on. I mean, all of that built up on where I am today. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how those 3.5 years went.
Wonderful. And from PwC, you directly went towards working in Dubai.
No, no, no. I worked with Deloitte Jeddah as well
All
for a few
right.
months, and after that, I moved to Dubai to work for Emirates. So between PwC and Emirates, I did work for Deloitte, also in their assurance line of service.
All right. Okay. Well, if it's okay, we can go a little bit in the flashback, and I wanted to quickly discuss about anything that you faced while you were going for inductions for the firm and while you were giving interviews, because these days it is the talk of the town that every CA student is concerned about their inductions, their articles, what to do, how to prepare for interviews, or like they've been studying all their life and suddenly you're told to have a personality for interviews, and that just it takes them off a little bit. So what helped you in your journey, and what are some things that you focused upon?
I think I can talk about Ferguson because the way they conducted an interview was in a very, I would say, non-conventional way, because they did not focus a lot on the technical expertise. I mean, if you've cleared I mean, it used to be AFC when I was doing my C. I think now it's PRC. So if you're done with like 13 papers, I mean, there were 13 at that time till CA Intermediate CAF. So if you're done with 13 papers of your CA program, the partners in the firms know that you do know your stuff, you do know your IFRSs, and as much as it's required at that age and time, your just brief information of tax laws and corporate laws. So the partners that interviewed me, they did not focus a lot on the technical areas of assurance or technical areas of accounting. They were more focused on stakeholder management in terms of handling your team, dealing with your peers or your seniors, your subordinates, and also your external stakeholder management with the clients, with other departments that you liaise with during audit work. So my interview with PwC particularly was more focused on how I would deal in certain situations, how I would behave and act in certain scenarios. My friends who also appeared for interviews with PwC, their interview was more aligned towards how the economics and of our country shapes the next few years, because at that time, I'm not sure how the structure is right now. At that time, the partners were more focused on that you're not just a bookworm, and you're not just deep into your books and deep into your standards and laws. They were more focused on how well you know about what's happening around you, because a bit of what we might go into detail as well. A bit of what audit work is also relates to this certain scenarios or certain things happening around the world that also impacts your companies and also impacts the clients that you're auditing. For example, if I talk about the most recent thing that happened while I was in my articles, I mean, it did not impact a lot of companies, but still, it was a consideration. How the Russian-Ukraine war. I mean, if a person does not know what's happening in the world, how the impact of that on your client and on your audit, you won't be able to assess it or make any deliberate considerations for that. So I think that's what they were more focused on: changing interest rates or changing fiscal landscape of our country, how that impacts the clients. If you know how what's happening and why is it happening, only then you can figure out how it's going to impact your clients and how it's going to impact your work directly. So that's what PwC's focus was at that time. Uh, but I think the major problem that we also faced, and I think I think it has probably spiraled into something, I won't say worse, but something significant now, is the influx of students that are coming out of CAF and the capacity at which the firms operate. So I think that is a thing that was also challenging for us as well, because I know a lot of my friends who had to wait for 6 months to a year before they could get inducted, and the reason for that was firms can only hire so many people, right? But the influx of students coming out from CAF and the people who are already waiting for like 6 months to a year after completing the CAF, I think that is a challenge, and I understand that can be frustrating, but That's how it is for now. So yeah, that was a challenge that we faced. But in terms of interviews, uh, I think if you've cleared your papers, you should not worry about how well you'll do technically. So yeah, we used to focus more on scenarios, try to read a couple of newspapers every day, get ahead of
Okay.
the information of what's happening, not just in our country, but what's happening outside of this country as well. And that used to help us. I mean, that did help me. That did help a lot of my friends as well who managed to ace those interviews.
Wonderful, thank you. And well, you did move abroad as well to work, and that is the aspect I want to come next to, because especially in this profession, we see so many accountants just getting into firms or just having the opportunity to work there, so just so they can move abroad to different countries, different regions. And was your intention the similar, or it was a decision that happened over time? Did you think about it thoroughly, or was this something that has always been at the back of your mind that this is something you want to do?
I think at the back of my mind, it was always a decision that I had to take. I mean, the reason why CA is well known, not just our fraternity, but also the CA bodies across the world, be it ICAI India or ICAW or ACCA for that matter. It opens up opportunities for your global mobility. Because at the end of the day, the accounting and auditing is pretty much the same across the world. There are a few changes in tax and legal laws, but other than that, the nature of work is pretty much standardized across the world. So how that benefits you is that you can move to any region, any country in the world, and they'll be following the same IFRSs with barring few changes with the UK gap or the US gap, but more or less it's going to be pretty much the same. The standards on auditing would be the same. The standards of accounting would be the same. So I mean, it wasn't the trend before. When I had joined CA and a couple of years before me, people who joined CA, their focus was staying in Pakistan. I mean, they would consider both opportunities and they could go either way. But after COVID and after I had I started my articles, there was this new trend of people moving abroad. And I think that is credited to how our currency fluctuated as well, because previously in terms of remuneration, I mean, there used to be still a difference, but it wasn't that big that would make someone move out of the country. But after COVID and how things shaped up in the last 4 years, the currency took like a deep dive, and it was a clear choice for everyone who wanted to move, who was considering these two opportunities, staying in Pakistan and staying out. Uh, Not just the currency fluctuations, but also the inflation factors and other, I would say, how economic and political landscape of this country changed. So that's why, I mean, I always wanted to move outside of Pakistan, but a lot of my friends who even did not want to, who were not even considering moving out of Pakistan, eventually they also did.
Okay.
So yeah, when you see opportunities coming at you and you realize the kind of exposure that you're going to get dealing with clients with multiple ethnicities, and so I think at that time it's a clear choice for people. And it's all, I mean, if it's our home, so it's always easier to come back and settle again, right? I mean, a lot of people who go out there go with the mindset that they're just going to work for like 3-4 years, gain the experience, and when they're done with that particular country, they're just going to come back. So yeah, for me it was a clear-cut choice. I had always planned to move out.
All right, let's talk about the culture change. Did you experience anything that is quite not very practiced in Pakistan, or what about the opportunities that you were given now working in Dubai, and a little bit of the difference in the working culture, the ethics?
I think the cultural change. If someone talks about, I would say, the UK or Ireland, like my friends who are in the Ireland, they are better suited to answer this question because they do face a cultural shock when they move there. When you move to Saudi or when you move to Dubai, a lot of people that you're going to work with speak the same language. I speak Urdu or Hindi with my colleagues at my workplace. Even my friends who are in EY or who are in PwC in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, they more or less converse in Urdu or in Hindi, right?
Okay.
So in terms of cultural aspects, people work practices, yeah, might be a little different, but in terms of culture, as in people who come together to work, literally, I would say no change in terms of that. If you move to Dubai, I mean, you move to areas like if you move to areas like Barsha or something, you will find lots of Pakistanis would gather around at a cricket match or something. You move to 𝗕𝗲𝘃𝗁, you'd find lots of Indians over there, right? So you're bumping into each other, and I've never had to speak English in outside of work.
Really?
Yeah, because everyone, like my laundry, the guy who does my laundry, or the bakalas or the general stores, all either
The
Indians or
what?
Pakistan. The bakala is an Arabic name, Arabic for a general store.
Okay.
So even those guys, either Hindi or Urdu, right? You find desi food everywhere in Dubai, so you don't have to worry about that. So in terms of cultural change, I did not have to face a lot. That's why I'm saying that people who move to Europe, like my friends who moved to this one friend of mine who moved to Luxembourg, or these friends who moved to Ireland, they did face a cultural change, because naturally not a lot of desis over there. But Saudi, Dubai, it's like you move from one desi country to another desi country.
And it's only 2 hours away, so you can always come back.
Yeah. You can always come back. I mean, the flight from Karachi to Dubai is like 1.5 hour to 2 hour stops, and they run like 10 flights a day, like including PIA, Emirates, and AirBlue and all. So it's really not. It's not a huge cultural change for me.
Okay. Well, you have a lot of students watching right now. So, I know that the traditional mindset of a CA student is to go and audit. That's like the dream of a CA student. So, what do you suggest, since you have so much exposure and in terms of qualifications as well, be it in your working experience as well? Do you suggest that there are more opportunities? And if yes, what opportunities should the students explore apart from either its tax or audit?
Okay. So when I started my articles, the concept of doing your articles from industry, from organizations outside of practice, was just, I wouldn't say booming in, but it was pretty much in its introductory or growth phase, I would say. I mean, there were only a handful of companies who would offer opportunities for articles. Right now, there are a lot more companies who also offer vacancies for articles as well. So when you move to an industry, that is pretty much, I would say, that you're going to focus on that particular industry for the next 3.5 years. For example, if you move to HBL, you will get tons of data and repository on how the banking industry works, right? So, but that's about it, right? But I always prefer assurance. I would always recommend moving into audit first, right? And for the reason for that is, when you are in a firm and when you are working in assurance per se, you always get a chance to work on multiple clients. You move from one client to another. After like every 2-3 months, you're working on other client, and sometimes that other client would mean a different set of industry altogether. For example, I started with a rice manufacturer. For my first client was in the rice manufacturing industry, right? Not manufacturing, rice processing industry, right? They used to purchase paddy and process it. Then my next client was an IPP, an independent power producer. Then the next client was an oil and gas extraction company. The next one was fertilizer, so and so on and so forth. So what happens is, when you are in assurance, you get a taste of each and every industry and how each and every company works, and the business processes across different industries, right? Of different industries and different sectors of our economy. So, and not just that, when you're in assurance, what happens is you do get opportunities to rotate to different departments as well. Like I moved to tax for a few months while I was in Ferguson, right? So even if it was a very brief stint, but what happened is that you work in those departments, and you see if this is something that you might do after you're done with your articles. Because after you're done with your articles, you have to make a decision, right? If you move to tax, and if you stay in tax for like 2-3 years, you are a through and through tax person, right? The move from tax to back to assurance, or back to financial reporting or financial analysis, that might be a tricky thing. But if you're in tax for 3 years and move into like a company for their general counsel or for the tax department, that is a pretty straight move. So articles allows you to get a taste of different departments as well, depending on how the requirement of other departments are, and it makes it easier for you to make a decision after your articles ends. So I would always prefer assurance over this. And also, when you are on your audit work, on field work, you gradually improve your areas as well. For example, I started off with expenses and straightforward vouching and looking at invoices and all that. But as I progressed in my articles, you start working on technical areas as well, which involves a lot of assumptions, which involves a lot of, I would say, judgment calls, then a lot of interpreting tax and legal corporate laws as well. So articles allows you to do that, and particularly assurance allows you to do that. You start off like in the first year, all I did was expenses and share capital and all that areas of auditing. But as I progressed, I was working on revenue. I have worked on tax laws as well, verifying the tax expenses of the clients and deferred tax and all. So that is only possible if you're in assurance. I'm not sure how it would work in advisory or something or other places. And also, it also opens up a lot of opportunities to work in different departments as well. For example, if after assurance, I can move into IFRS advisory, because that's what I've been doing, helping clients with for the last 3.5 years. If I have worked on let's say cash flow models or impairment models during my audit work, I know how that this would be my life if I move into financial advisory, right? So I can move into that as well. If I have worked on tax laws, if I worked on verification of tax expense or tax cases of a company, I know this is the regular daily work in the tax line of service. So that's why I would say, if you get a chance, you should always start with assurance. And also, if you look at the future as well, not the future in general, but in future of your career as well, there are a lot more opportunities in assurance abroad as well. For example, that's what we see as well. If there are 5 vacancies for audit seniors or senior associates outside of Pakistan, you might find 1 or 2 opportunities in advisory at first. So it's always easier to move outside in assurance and then make a switch into IFRS advisory or other financial advisory. So yeah, assurance all the way.
All right. Um, Apart from that, I know like after you qualify C or while you're in the articles, having to hear somebody say of getting another qualification is a bit of a bad news. But what other qualifications do you suggest students should look into? And it could be anything, like it could be about SAP or any other course, or just not like a huge qualification because that's already done, like something to just add value to it. What would you suggest?
I think people do rush into more qualifications as soon as they are done with their CA or ACCA. I have not been, I would say, a strong advocate for that personally, because you first decide and make up your mind and settle into a place, and then you make a decision of what you need to do further. For example, if you move into tax, there are a lot of tax certifications. There's international tax certification of sorts that you can look into, that help you understand in greater detail about transfer pricing or international tax laws. So you know that you want to do that after you've experienced working in that field, right? You work in tax for like significant amount of, not significant I would say, but like a year or two in those departments, and then you can make a decision of what you want to do further. Let's say you work into financial advisory, you work in mergers and acquisitions, and then once you understand that nature of work, once you enjoy that nature of work, then you can decide to do your CFA as well, because that is just going to help you with your work as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, what happens is, if you end up getting a qualification just for the sake of qualification, just to add a prefix or suffix after your name, what happens is, you do end up getting the qualification. You spend a lot of money, a lot of man hours into that. But if you cannot find a way to translate what you've learned into your work, then I personally think that I would not want to do that. And let's say there's another one. If you move into internal audit, there's CIA for that, right? So making a decision of the next qualification, I think that is something that you need to do. I would say a couple of years after you've worked in a company or in a firm. For example, I have a friend who, what he did was, he moved outside pretty much around the same time as me, and now he knows that he wants to move further to the US, right? And the US has a separate qualification, CA qualification of their own, which is called CPA, certified or chartered public accountant. I think it's certified. So now he is working on his CPA, because he has made up his mind that he's going to leave the Middle East and move to the US, right? So I think it's about making an informed decision. I mean, once you're done with the CA, the all doors are open for you of what qualification you want to pursue further. But once you've settled into a place, I think that's when you should decide what to do next.
Yeah.
Not rush into a qualification just because you're still in your prime age where you can learn and give papers. Because I believe giving papers at some point in time, when you're done with your qualification, giving papers becomes your comfort zone, because that's something you're good at, right? If you keep clearing papers, that is the thing that you're good at now. So what people do is, because they are in their comfort zone, they know that they're going to cram and understand concepts and all, and it's going to go and give a paper and clear it, right? So a lot of people, not a lot, but a considerable amount of people do that thing. But yeah, I think once you settle down, you understand the nature of work, and you make an informed decision. This is what I want to do, right? Like a person I know in my company, what he did was, after he was done with his CA, he worked in an industry for like 4 or 5 years, and that's when he realized that now he needs to move further into management, away from the conventional financial roles and more into management, supply chain and all. So he decided to get his MBA after that. He did not rush into a qualification right after, or a degree right after qualifying CA. He waited for 4 or 5 years, got a lot of experience, then decided to get an MBA, because that was an informed decision. So I think that's what people should do. I mean, at least that's what personally I would do.
Well, what do you plan on doing? Like, what is your vision for, let's say, the next 5 years? Where would you see yourself?
I think for me, like I said, I mean, it's been like what? It's been a year, or almost. I'll complete a year in Dubai this year. So it's still too early for me to uh, fixate on a particular qualification, or a field of area right now. For now, I think when you work for a company like Emirates, I mean, there's a lot happening every day. I mean, each day you go there and you realize that everything that you know is obsolete, and there's always new information flowing in.
Yeah.
So before I make a decision of what to do next, I think right now it's important for me to absorb where I am right now, right? Because I think there's still a lot to learn for me. There's still a lot of not just business processes, but a lot of technical areas. Because things that we study in CA, or we go through in our articles, and when you move into industry, sometimes things work in a different manner as compared to when you're on the other side of the table. Like when you are auditing, you know that this is how things are supposed to be done, right? But then there are particular industry norms, or way of doing things. There's the materiality concept is completely different from what we think and what companies perceive it as. So for me, I think it's still a long way to go before I decide on pursuing another qualification, or think of doing something else. Right now, I mean, like I said, it's a huge place, and there's a lot of technical information flowing day in, day out, a lot of decisions being made. So right now, I just want to sit there and just absorb everything and take it one day at a time, really.
Okay. Now that's a good approach towards it. And currently, where you are, do you like what you do, or do you enjoy what you're doing?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I always wanted to work in finance. For me, CA was not a last moment 11th hour decision. It was a predetermined decision for like years before I entered into this space. So I like what I do. I mean, but if to get into more details, I work in the consolidation team for Emirates. So for me, I do enjoy the work. I do enjoy getting up and going to work every day. A lot of new things that we do over there, and honestly, the kind of numbers that we deal with, the kind of things that we deal with, I would say, for me, yeah, I do enjoy what I do. I wouldn't be there if I didn't enjoy,
Yeah,
right?
definitely. And a little bit of word of advice before we go towards the end. All of those students who are currently studying, or even if they're not, to everybody who's on way to inductions, and who are currently preparing for their interviews, because you've already been through that stage, and because you're at a place where you enjoy what you do, and definitely it took a lot of effort and hard work to get here, but it does get interesting at the end. It does get exciting at the end. Apart from all the hard work and all the struggles, it is rewarding. So, a word of advice for all of them who are currently studying and not being able to work out of things, and everything is just too much right now. A little word of advice for them.
Okay. Uh, okay. So I think I have experienced it firsthand that whatever happens, honestly, happens for a reason. And when you are going through that particular phase of life, you do not understand why such and such thing is happening, right? Uh, if I give my example, what happened was that while I was in assurance, I was seconded to another company, and I worked for them for like, I would say, almost 10 months for them, and during those 10 months I was not working in assurance for that amount of time. But those 10 months, at that time, I mean, you do get, I won't say demotivated, but you do think that you came into firm to work in assurance, or to work on clients, and you're there working for a company for like a long period of time, right? But when the opportunity for Emirates came up, that those 10 months are the reason, and I won't say the most important reason, but also an important reason, which helped me move into the door, and compete with other candidates. Because I was working for a company for like a significant amount of time, right? I worked on their, I would say, ERPs and all, and I could translate that in my interview with my current organization, right? So at that time, it did get a bit overwhelming that I'm still here. My friends are moving to other clients, and I'm still here working for a company, missing out on auditing or assurance experience. So I have experienced this firsthand, that you never know why something happens when it's happening, right? But somewhere along the line, somewhere down the road, the dots connect themselves, and you realize why something had happened like 2 3 years back. Because this is what it was for me. 2 years later, when I got this opportunity, that's when it clicked that I went through all of that, so I could use that over here. So I have very strong belief in whatever happens for a reason. Like, you know how in Urdu we say that there's always 𝗕𝗲𝘆liche in something, right? You never know why it's happening. So even if it's happening right now, I understand it's very difficult to be positive when
I
nothing's going right.
know.
But if you can, I would say, you always believe that there's a reason why it's happening. That Allah की हर चीज़ में मसलहत होती है. So if nothing's going your way, it will help you in some way, shape, or form in the future. Like right now, I can understand. I mean, people do not get inducted on time. When they get inducted, they might not clear their papers on time, multiple attempts and all. But at the end, when all of the dots connect and you end up at a particular place, it does end up into a beautiful puzzle that God had created for you. So I would always say that have belief that nothing is, even if things are going wrong right now, in the long run, it's always going to be an upward trajectory in life. So yeah, that's what my word of advice is, and that is coming straight from my life and from my example, because that's what I have experienced in my life.
Thank you so much. You've ended it on such a beautiful note. Thank you. And it was indeed a pleasure and an honor to have this conversation with you and to have you back in Tabani's after how many years?
I mean, I visited Tabani's after a year. I met Tabani Saab before I left for Dubai. So I came back. I think a couple of days before my flight, I came. I met Tabani Saab, and that's what I did. I came back from Dubai right now, like this week, and I came, met Tabani Saab, met Miss Saima. I mean, all those people who have played a significant role in where I am today, where my friends are today. Like my friends, I mean, we all hold this institute in really in high regards. All the teachers that taught us, Tabani Saab, Majid Saab, Azim Saab, Miss Saima. So yeah, so Fahad used to teach. I think he no longer teaches in audit anymore. I think he's joined ICAP. But all of these people, they have played a significant role in our lives, and shaped our have like little bits of involvement in how we continued our life. So I think this is always a homecoming for me every time I'm back here. So yeah, so I think
I'm
after a year.
sure all of the teachers you've mentioned, they hold you in very high regard as well. And once again, thank you so much for joining in and thank you so
Yeah.
much for taking out the time. It has been a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. All right, guys, that is all for today. I will catch you guys in another episode. Till then, take care.